Good evening and welcome all to the second episode of the second season of BC Wrestle Pod, the actual podcasting of the BC Wrestle Pod review YouTube channel, Twitch conglomeration syndicate thingamabob we do on the internet, not so weekly, but almost every day. Incorporated. Yes. But if you are new here, if you like what you see, we do review shows for all the weekly television and pretty much all the pay-per-views, including some of the more smaller independent ones. We cover WWE, AEW, NXT, TNA, GCW, and adding to the rotation for 2025, we have done New Japan. We're going to continue to do New Japan, Stardom, Progress Wrestling, and then, of course, me and Will's all-time favorite of our new, we're covering all the continents as best as we can this year. So we're going to have a good time. Of course, if you want to rep us in different ways, we also have merchandise, link in the description of this video below, where you can buy hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeves, stickers, mugs. It is a great time. So now that we got that out of the way, let us begin. So, and let me just put our little slideshow together as it loads up. So what we did is we took the matrix that Kilt found for us, which is very, very beautiful. And we were each tasked with filling in our own brackets. So some of us, the matrices that we're going to look at this episode is, of course, myself, Kilt's, but we also have the professor and Minnie's matrix is done. So we're going to talk about those and, poke fun at things. So this is going to be fun. So I have decided to go in alphabetical order because I did not know who was going to be here this evening. So we're going to start things off and actually I'm the host, so I'm going to start me first because I can. Anyways, plus I think it's a good talking point. Oh, no, wait. I put the wrong name on this. This is actually Minnie's. I was like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, of course it is. I'm just like...
He did actually relatively good on all that. I agree with pretty much everything. Especially Enzo had a very bad time, I think. I think the situation surrounding Enzo when it came to in-ring stuff, as well as also, his personal life, I think that if there was some less of that, he probably would have been better. But he was fire on the mic. I partially agree with The Miz, but I'm a Miz hater, so I personally would probably bring him down maybe to decent on the mic because he's kind of meh for me, but he is interesting to listen to. I can't argue with Flair. Ric Flair he was a good stand, and it's actually one of the things I think would be definitely we would be remiss to not talk about would be Noble, if I remember right. If I'm remembering this right.
Ooh, right?
This was Regal. I don't know why I was thinking Noble for some reason. Yeah, William Regal definitely is also deserving of that corner spot because not only does he teach it, but he has great in-ring presence, and I think he should also be on this list, and we'll go over it later.
Yeah. So when Minnie sent his over and I looked at this, I was just like, yeah, I can make an argument of good placement for all of these, but I agree with you. Enzo was great on the mic, but his ring skills were not the best when he was with WWE. And of course, issues and all that didn't necessarily help him. But yeah, I think we both can agree. Shockmaster, oof. I wasn't even alive during that time, but wrestling history nerds, I'm like, no, just no. If I had to make any changes, no, I mean, Prime Ric Flair was pretty good, but I didn't pick Flair. For mine, I almost put Seth. Great in-ring, great on the mic, and then I thought of someone, me personally, I was like, oh yeah. So, but Minnie, I'm gonna get his thoughts later when we see him. It's like, so tell me about your grid. Make him do it on our next week's WWE review show. Be like, really quickly, tell me about this grid. And we're gonna get the professor too, because it's great. Speaking of the professor, between him and Adolfo, I love both of them because they are given the homework assignment and then they kind of just do their own thing with it. So let's talk about the professors because I actually really dug his. So here is the professors. He kind of cheated a little bit for the first one. So great on the mic and great in-ring is Stone Cold Steve Austin and the late, great Eddie Gibb. Terrible in-ring, but great on the mic is the late, great Paul Bearer. Then, love it. But then we get great in-ring and decent on the mic, Mr. Will Ospreay from AEW and Mommy Rhea Ripley in WWE. Then decent in-ring with decent on the mic is Jon Moxley formerly known as Dean Ambrose from WWE, who is currently AEW. I want to slap the professor's bald head, but it is okay. Terrible in-ring, decent on the mic is Mr. Hulk himself.
I should be in that bottom corner.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. Then great in-ring, but terrible on the mic is Hook, Taz's son, who's in AEW. Then, of course, we have China, who is decent in the ring, but terrible on the mic. And then terrible in the ring, terrible on the mic. I think that's Great Gonzalez. Yeah, it's Great Gonzalez, right? Yeah, that is.
I don't remember. We discussed it like briefly, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But what's funny is I almost made this comparison earlier in our show with Jax. She's almost like China. She's larger than the rest of the competitors that she's working against, and she doesn't really know how to scale her own strength or become a little bit more fluid. And that's one of the reasons and I'll definitely share this in my grid as well. But China actually, she was never really good on the mic. She fumbled a lot. She probably could have used some help with that. Some of the greater stars, I'm not going to sit here and be like, okay, you're good with XYZ. You're blah, 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 blah. I can't. I'm never going to say no to Eddie being in that corner because he was phenomenal. There's like you and I go back and forth about this every so often. It's like if Eddie was still here, he would LWO and their whole thing and everything about like the Latino side of wrestling would be larger than life because he would still be pioneering and literally being the spearhead for it. Like the La Raza movement in wrestling was kind of brought in by him and Ray, and it's like everything is so good. I can't find a really bad Eddie moment. Like when he won the title, it was like literally heartbreaking because he had come back. He was having issues. He was going through divorce troubles. I think he had a custody problem. He was an alcoholic problem, and he was fighting like not like in the let's show this as a fight, but he was actually literally fighting, almost like when Matt Hardy did his, had his issues before he got clean. That's
Jeff.
Yeah, sorry, I confused the two. It's like Jay
Nah,
and
it's okay.
Jimmy.
Oh my god. No, but yeah, it was Jeff. And then of course us wrestling fans remember when he was in TNA, the infamous, he wrestled Sting like not sober, and Sting was mad.
Yeah, it was. I always having Paul Bearer on this thing is hilarious. You could have put Paul Heyman on this, and it still would have been hilarious for both of those. Because
terrible in the ring, but great on the mic.
Their job is to talk. Their job's not to wrestle. I love it. It's great. It is by far one of my favorite pieces.
Oh, absolutely. And then of course, with Professor and I and JVL being the AEW review team here. Yeah, I don't have any to where the AEW stars landed in this one, especially Moxley, who is pretty decent in the ring, decent mic skills. He's not the type of wrestling character who is known for outstanding promos. He's just like, I'm here to fight, and that's it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I don't disagree. So, good job, Professor. I would say you cheated because you put 2, but that's okay because I didn't specify the rule. So, hey, it's all right. Now we can get into the deep discussion because Kilt, you're up next with yours. So why don't you run down yours and we'll talk about it.
I'll start off. So Jay being great on the mic and great in ring. High flyer, he's a fast mover. A lot of spots right, almost perfectly. And it's everything I see about Jay and his brother Jimmy. They're going to be the big superstars of the era. Now, decent in ring and great on the mic. Obviously, I had to pick our man R-Truth because he's a genius. Everything he does, all the screw ups, all the just goof off moments, all the witty wordplay banter he does. I cannot find anybody better on the mic than him personally. Great. And I'm going to have to beg forgiveness from Her Majesty, but the Queen, Charlotte Flair, I've not been impressed. I have not been at all impressed with anything she's done in the ring. She's good on the mic. She's gotten the reactions she's trying to get, but she's not that great. And then so we'll skip down to Penta. Oh, I love Penta. Penta is amazing. It's sad. And it gets to a point where it's constantly too much, but you know what? I'm gonna leave him, let him do his thing. He has fun. I have fun. The only reason I say he's decent on the mic and not great is because good's not a category. It's only 3 categories. I wanted a fifth. But obviously it's a language barrier issue for Penta. So that's one of the reasons why he's not better on the mic, is because he's trying to translate from Spanish to English mid-sentence. And I know that is a difficult thing because I've tried to do it with English to Spanish. I've tried to do it with English to German, English to French, English to Russian at one point. It is when you're bilingual, it is a very difficult thing because you think one way and you have to speak another, and I understand. So that's his only downfall, and that's why he's decent on the mic. So in Solo Sikoa's defense, he's come a very long way. Like, that man has been terrible on the mic for as long as I've known, and then in the later years, in the current generation of Bloodline, he's starting to get better and better and better. He's always been good in the ring. Excuse me. He's been great getting better on the mic. Every DIY match, I practically skip because I really don't like them. It doesn't appeal to me. Like, I would put them as terrible on the mic and maybe good in the ring because they do have some good spots. But in all honesty, when they go out and they start talking, they get the response that they're looking for and they're trying to get and trying to garner. But I just do not like their matches because it's either predictable, it's boring, or it doesn't really sell anything personally. And now the bottom row. I love Otis. He can get better on the mic. He's great in your ring. He does a lot of good stuff. He's able to move with his size and his frame, and he's just fantastic. But he needs better mic skills, and he just needs to improve on that. Now, going back to our next contestant, it's Dirty Dom. The only reason why he's terrible on the mic is because he created a character that no one wants him to talk. So it's like, well, you can't really improve your mic skills. You're kind of weak. You're kind of all over the place. You're not great. You got good moves. He does put on a good show. Obviously he's been in the industry for a while, but it's like he doesn't have the mic skills. But that's also his own downfall because that's the way he made his character. He's made his character to be booed out of the stadium, and so he can't really. He's written himself into a corner, so to speak. And then finally is Nia Jax. So she has a size problem per se with her wrestling because everyone else is so small in comparison to her, or smaller, I should say, that her matches are slow. They're over thought out because she's trying not to hurt anybody again, which is great. I'm glad she's improving, but it's one of those, I kind of don't want to watch any of her matches. I don't really want to watch a lot of it. She's not the greatest on the mic. She could improve a lot on the mic. And if at any point, like, she decided not to wrestle and kind of go the Paul Heyman route and be a manager, that actually probably would suit her a little bit better because the way they script her, it makes her more or less terrible on the mic. And we've had this discussion where I sent you an interview with her, and she was having fun. She was amazing, and it's partially the way the character is scripted for her, the way that she is per se, trying to make that duality and not let and I think she has a little bit too much creative holds on her that aren't allowing her to kind of flourish on the mic. So that's actually what's funny is underneath her is Pete Dunne. I didn't want to be rude. I wanted to put someone else. I wanted to do two, but I didn't know if we could. So I had put Pete Dunne on there because Pete Dunne's accent is thicker than necessary. It's weird. It's just so I don't like watching him wrestle. Like the whole finger breaking thing. Yeah, that's kind of cool and kind of like interesting, but it's just like, I'm not the big fan. I just don't like, you may be doing good things but to someone else, but to me, you can just go over there, please. You look weird as shit.
Gosh, oh my goodness, Kilt. I mean, it's your Matrix. I disagree, but that is okay.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I put Nia on top of him, because I don't want to disrespect him too much because this is like the second time I've seen him. So it's like I didn't want to base what I was judging off of this much exposure to him.
No, and it's okay. And so I know. This is Naya's second stint in WWE. She was part of of releases, and then they brought her back. So I will say, I've enjoyed Naya this second time around, but it's really hard when she's stuck in the same thing. So hopefully they let Naya do something else, because I think the potential is there, but we have relegated her to just be this big powerhouse who is just throwing people around. And it's really tough for wrestlers who are just power-based wrestlers who don't have the agility, because then they can't really do much against like smaller opponents or more technically sound opponents. But I can't disagree with anything. The crazy thing is, with your Charlotte pick, I was like, we haven't seen her fight quite yet. I hope we get at least something from her before Mania. I'm like, you can't tell me you're gonna just not let her fight somebody in the 10 weeks leading into Mania, can you?
I didn't like her appearance in the Rumble. It didn't appeal to me. It was like, it's like the whole John Cena argument now. It's like, oh, we're just handing him everything, and it's like, I wasn't attached to it, but I can say that she's been doing great promo-wise, with the exception of Letdown last week, because that's how I will forever refer to that episode of SmackDown. It is Letdown.
Oof.
Bad.
The February 21st SmackDown will go down in infamy as a really rough episode of SmackDown.
Oh, it was rough. Anyway, but yeah, that's where my thought process was.
I love it. I love your reasoning. I love your grid. Fantastic work, Kilt. Good job. You get to go. Alrighty, now. Yeah, go clap. Alrighty, now it's time for me to put my money where his mouth is. So here is mine. So I will give my reasoning. I try to incorporate everything that I watch. So this is where I ended up with mine. So,
oh my God, you didn't
see. I didn't say anything, because when you brought up when we were looking at the professor's grid, I'm like, oh, Kilt's gonna get a kick out of this. So let me go through this. So I'm gonna start in the very top left-hand corner. So great in the ring and great on the mic is personally one of my favorite wrestlers right now to come out of like the last year and a half or so. From TNA is Mr. Mike Santana himself. I think his in-ring skills are fantastic. And for a big man, he has the power, but he has the agility as well. I think and what kind of put him up there for me is that I do starter packs for people, in the sense they're like, what matches have you liked within the last month? If you like, because I have all the logins, y'all, if you want to watch. His I Quit match against Josh Alexander from last month's TNA pay-per-view is fantastic. And now he's currently in a feud with Mustafa Ali, which is getting crazy. The storytelling's a lot of fun. So he's fantastic on the mic because he's just real. He's from New York. He's very hood when it comes to that, but he's very authentic in it. It's not played for a laugh or a character or for dramatic effect. He's just him, and he's fantastic. Just like the professor, I also have Timeless Tony Storm for decent in the ring, but fantastic on the mic. If you have seen any Timeless Tony Storm promo, you know what we're talking about. Like, everything that comes out of her mouth is gold. And then, of course, as we all know, terrible in the ring, but one of the best talkers next to the late great Paul Bearer is, the tribal, the one Paul. And we know he's not a good wrestler. I mean, he got thrown through that table by Solo and the Bloodline. And that also, need I remind everyone, 2 SummerSlams ago, when it was Roman versus Brock Lesnar, a title for title match, essentially, Paul Heyman got weaponized, and he got used as a physical weapon. Brock Lesnar picked him up and chucked him like a bat at Roman Reigns, which was crazy to watch. I was like, oh God, Paul is a weapon now. It's crazy out here.
So he hit a mother with a mother.
Exactly. Is fantastic. So then moving on to the middle role, decent on the mic, but great in ring, just like the professor. I also have the aerial assassin of AEW, Mr. Will Ospreay. I don't care what nobody says. And there's another host who me and him have gone back and forth in the past about, I love Will. He does not, but we've come to a understanding, and he's kind of come around a little bit. Will's in-ring ability is fantastic. Of course, sounding like an elitist fan, but Will in New Japan Pro Wrestling is great, and he's killing it right now in AEW. However, of course, now that he's in an American wrestling company, New Japan really didn't have him do too much on the mic, but now he has to, because Americanized companies make you do promos like this. And I think his mic skills are decent. He's just his authentic self as well. But you could definitely tell that talking for a long period of time is not his strong suit. but he does cut some really great promos. It just depends on who his dance partner is on the mic across the ring. When he feuded with MJF leading into All In 2024 in a Wembley Stadium, that was actually really good because MJF forced Will to get better on the mic and do the verbal jabs.
Your laundry's done, by the way.
I know, it's crazy out here.
Can I? I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just go back to your top corner for a second?
Yeah, sure.
He is a tan version of Joakim Broden from Sabaton.
Yes! I love that comparison. No, seriously, if you check out any of Mike Santana's TNA matches, kilts, they are fantastic. And actually, a lot of them are on TNA's YouTube channel. I'm going to send you a link to his Texas Death match with Mr. Johnny Dango Curtis, formerly known as Fandango in WWE. That match was crazy, bloody. It was good. This one really hurt because I was like, I want to put him on here, but I can't put him. Like recently, I'm like, he's decent in the ring. He's good on the mic, but like you said, there's no good. So decent I have in the middle of my matrix is Mr. L.A. Knight. Yeah. I don't care what nobody says. I think he's a good wrestler, but he does miss a couple of times from time to time. And depending on who he's up on the mic against, it can go one of two ways. It's going to be an excellent promo battle, or it's like not necessarily the greatest for the opponent because LA Knight's going to crush them verbally. But I love Mr. LA Knight, and goes to show that even as he is in his midst of his late 30s, early 40s, he's finally in WWE. He gets to do the thing. This man's charisma is off the charts, and nobody can take that away from him. I love LA Knight's promos because they are some of the most random things. He just goes in. I'm just like, this is fantastic. Now, I need the internet to not come for me when this episode, if you're watching live or if you're going to watch the edited version later, I need the internet not to come for me about talking about Trick Williams, who is decent on the mic but terrible in the ring. When I say terrible in the ring, I don't mean that his wrestling is just really bad, but Trick has the same 4 movesets and he always ends his matches with the same sequences. And I know he's in NXT, you know, he was our NXT champion before losing to Oba Femi, who is the current one. I love Trick Williams to death. I think his charisma is great. His mic skills are pretty good. I just need him to develop his repertoire when it comes to wrestling. But what I'm hoping is that with this more darker version of him going more from a baby face to a in-betweener, and not necessarily heel, but getting more aggressive face, I am here for it. We're going to talk about The Bottoms. Great movie, by the way, if y'all haven't seen it. And great TV show, too. Anyways, I digress. He is great in the ring. And the only reason he has terrible mic skills to me is because his accent is very thick. And normally I don't try to use that as a point against people. But they also don't give this man a lot to say in terms of good promo stuff. But this is the Mad Dragon himself, WWE's Ilya Dragunov, who should be returning from injury very soon, which makes me super excited. He's been out for the last couple of months due to injury, but this man was one of my favorite folks watching NXT UK, then in NXT. Fantastic. Him and, well, formerly known as Volta, because he was still Volta back in NXT UK and Black and Gold NXT when they had their match. It was a banger. Ilya's fantastic in the ring. Like, you want to talk about people who need to be told that wrestling is not real, quote unquote. Ilya Dragunov's matches, somebody's always about to die. Like, he is throwing his body. He's always bleeding at the end of the match. He's like a Jon Moxley who bleeds after every match, but he doesn't need it to feel alive. He is just he literally is the Russian czar. Like, this man, because he's very fluent in the Russian style of wrestling, so it's very heavy-handed, hard hits, like you gonna leave welts at the end of it. I think he's fantastic in the ring, but his mic skills are not the greatest. Then we move on over to his other counterpart, decent in the ring, but terrible on the mic. I don't care what nobody says. Braun Breaker has a lot of energy. He's like a little chihuahua. He has a lot of energy. He does a lot of barking, but what comes out of his mouth is not necessarily the most substantial thing on the planet. And I love me some Braun Breaker here, like him and his spray tan, I swear. But I feel since becoming the 2-time Intercontinental Champion, and this goes into our discussion question at the very end of this episode, he hasn't done much. And the little talking that he has been kind of not great. Like, he doesn't have a lot of worthy promos. Honestly, they're very forgettable for me. So hopefully he could change that. He's just being built as this. He gonna spear you into oblivion, and those things hurt. And then finally, those of you who were tuning into our Ring of Honor reviews all last year know how much myself, Jesse, Andrew, and JVL despise this man. He is supposed to be the mouthpiece for the Iron Savages, which is, Bear Boulder and Bronson Boulder. But he sucks. He literally is basically what happens when you take a jock, juice him up on all the steroids, and then let him have a mic. He sucks on the mic. He is not great. And his wrestling, I always give a benefit of the doubt, Kilt, when it comes to wrestling ability, because, not everyone grew up in the business. People are learning in this, but my God, he is so bad in the ring. Like, he knows like one move, and we're far enough into the episode, he always manages to fuck it up. I was just like, you had one job and you fucked it up big time. Oh my God. I always roll my eyes whenever he's on my screen. And now that the Iron Savages are no more, because, one of them hasn't been there. One of them got fired because he got arrested for DV, which is crazy to me. Now Maria Kanellis is no longer there. So now he's the mouthpiece for these two wrestlers called Griff Garrison and Cole Carter, who we named them the Mama's Boys because Maria Kanellis was their manager. And now he's the mouthpiece for them. And now they're calling themselves the Frat House. I'm like, oh God, it's the most bro-y thing on the planet. Get this out of my screen. Boo. What to Wendy Testaberger? Boo. Hate that. That is my matrix and my reasonings why.
Yes. The only thing I not really argue about, like,
fight me. I'm just kidding.
I will fight you, but the only reason I'm going to fight you on anything is Bronze is not a Chihuahua. He's more like a Pomeranian.
You know what? I won't even fight you on that because I'll agree to that one.
He's not skinny. He doesn't look like a crack addict. He's just a ball of stuff that will just be feral. I like Trick Williams. I'm not going to disagree with his wrestling ability because I've only seen bits and pieces of it. And so, yeah, he's good on the mic. And I saw an interview where the whole thing with his intro was organic. Like, it was not like something kind of planted. It wasn't something that was just that. It just, like, audience was like, no, Trick. It's like, yeah, that's cool. That's what you want as a wrestler. You want an organic.
Whoop that Trick, man. So good.
Honestly, I love everything. This whole project was fun. One of the things I think we should do is post WrestleMania, after we take a little bit of a break, we should expand this to more fields. So you have great, good, decent, bad, and then terrible.
Turn this into a tier list rating.
Well, not just a tier list rating. Just have 5 options across the board, so that way we can go in a little bit more detail. Because there are people who, they're not terrible in the ring. They could. Yeah, they could be better, but they're not like, oh my God, what are you doing in the ring? And going back to Paul Heyman getting put through the table by Solo Sikoa, it kind of reminded me of when the Dudley Boys put Mae West through the table, which was her idea. That was her idea, not the boys. Her idea. It was like, I remember seeing an interview with Bubba. He's like, I put her to the table on her. I was like, do you want me to do this? You want me? It's like, gosh, do it. Blah, 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 blah. Just being Mae West. And he did it. And he's like, what the fuck did I just do? It's a great thing about wrestling.
It's fantastic. I loved it. So, yeah, so that's my Matrix. So that was fun. And that's it for all the folks that did their Matrix. So let me take this off the screen so we can get bigify it again. Antamax, if you will. So now what we're going to do is, now we're at the end of the actual topic. So we're going to end this episode like we did with our episode last month. And so the biggest thing right now for us, because, we're on the WWE review panel, is the fact that WrestleMania 41 is coming up in Vegas. So we have been building matches. We have 2 confirmed matches so far with Gunther and Jay and Charlotte and Tiffany, our Royal Rumble winners. We will figure out who's facing Cody and Rhea after Elimination Chamber. But there's a lot of talk right now about this build kind of being all over the place. So, Kilt, I want to hear your thoughts about who we have so far and, just your thoughts about the matches we got confirmed and everything. And then, what you want to see too. So let's start with Jay, Gunther, and Charlotte and Tiffany, Royal Rumble winners. Like, do you think those were the right calls? Like, how do you feel?
Oh yeah, I think they're definitely the right. We discussed this before, but I definitely feel that these are the right calls for those matches. As we said, we want to see. I want to see more from Charlotte, and not just be a figurehead and placeholder for WrestleMania. I want her to actually be able to do something in the ring between then and now, and not just show up, maybe give a promo, maybe give a half-ass to who gives a situation. But I would love to see her do some more work in the ring and show that she is the queen. And with Gunter and Jay, it was coming. Like it was funny. Like if Gunther didn't, I know we all know that this was kind of going to be a thing, but if Gunther didn't really go after Jay the way he did, it probably would have been Cody. But it's the thing. It's like, yo, dude, you just came after me, you blindsided me, and now you're telling me I'm not worthy of your time when you've spent time trying to make it so that I think I'm not worthy. Yeah, dude, it's obvious. I'm coming after you. Just buckle up. Let's go. And then, as I said, those are the two known matches. Oh, who's going after Cody and who's going after Rhea or Io Sky? Because Io Sky is supposed to take on Rhea after
the Raw after Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a very how it's built. I don't know what the layout looks like, not just for WrestleMania, but just in general. Like I'm sitting there trying to think, okay, well, could they do a cage match? Could they do a Hell in a Cell match? Could they do?
I mean, they could.
I want to see a tag team championship match that's actually worth a damn. I want to see, because we have the two, the men's and women's American titles sitting there. We have the Intercontinental titles sitting there. So there's 4 matches right there alone that really could be something that
right.
I would love to see more of.
Oh, absolutely. So I agree with you. We talked about it or I at least mentioned it that I'm hoping that they do something more with Jay and Gunther because after Elimination Chamber, it's about 9 to 10 weeks to Mania. And that's going to be really tough to keep this, the storyline part of it interested because I think the match is going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm hoping that the story is more than pull apart brawls because we've seen that for the last 3 weeks. I'm hoping I love Gunther. I really do. I would love to see Jay walk out WrestleMania as a world champion, even if he holds that for a little bit. I want Jay to get a singles Mania moment. He is so over with the crowd, like Mr. Yeet himself. And then same thing with Tiffany and Charlotte. I think the match is going to be fun. I really hope WWE allows Tiffany to beat Charlotte. And so, because Tiffany is the future, and I think what better way to push her into the next level of stardom in WWE than having her beat Charlotte Flair. So those are the 2 confirms. And then, like we talked about too, I want to see a tag team championship match. It's probably going to be the SmackDown ones. I want to see War Raiders have a match at Mania, but I honestly don't know who their WrestleMania opponent would be because I'm going to be honest, the Raw tag team division is kind of struggling a little bit.
Well, so is the SmackDown division as well.
I will say, though, despite everything, SmackDown at least has 4 men's tag teams between the War Raiders and American Made. And now, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are on Raw too now. But we really haven't gotten much from them. So I'm just like, the Raw tag team division needs something.
They do. The Mayo brothers need someone else to go against.
Yeah, there's that. And again, I love the War Raiders. I really, really do. I want them to be at WrestleMania, but who knows what we're getting right here. And then, of course, we have all the non-title matches too. Well, I still want my ladder match for the Intercontinental because Braun is fighting with everybody. And what better way to get everybody in the same ring but have a ladder match? I want them to actually start building, poor Shinsuke is not being utilized properly. I want to see the United States Championship be defended. Shinsuke, I think, would be great, but I don't know what we're doing. And then, of course, I'm hoping that we start building, who's going to face, Lyra and Chelsea Green for the women's IC and United States Championship. I want to see that happen too. And then, of course, we have the non-championship matches as well. Is Randy Orton and Kevin Owens going to have a match? Where does Sami Zayn fit in all of this? And Jacob taking on each other at Mania too, depending on where this will they, won't they, I love you, but I also hate you at the same time story. Honestly, I think we're going to, I really hope that after Chamber this Saturday, we're going to start seeing some concrete, maybe he gets a rematch against Shinsuke. Who knows? We'll see about all that. And if I'm going to be completely honest, like, if Punk doesn't win the Chamber, I need Punk at Mania. You cannot not have Punk at Mania, especially after what happened last year. So those are like the three I want to see. Also, if I had to predict moments, I want to see Street Profits win those titles at Mania. I think it's long overdue for the Profits to have a big WrestleMania moment and a big WrestleMania win, because I think Montez and Angelo are fantastic. So
I went on the WWE website because I was curious of where SmackDown was going to be, and because I know travel's a pain in the ass, so are they doing it like in Toronto? And they are. And then I scrolled down to the end of that list, and they have registration for WrestleMania next year.
Yeah.
New Orleans. There's no leans in
New Orleans. I'm just kidding. New Orleans and Louisiana.
Yeah, my family's from Louisiana. Like my mom was born out there, so I take that pride very well. I have my uncle still down there as well, and I'm like, I would love to see how they do up the Superdome, because the Superdome's amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. But we are, I believe, according to Michael Cole on Monday Night Raw, I believe we're like less than 60 days away from WrestleMania, which is crazy to me to say. But, that does bring us to the end of this month's podcast. We went through the matrices. We talked a little bit about, what we want to see for WrestleMania. So I'm excited. I lost my sticky note because I wrote down the idea that we came up with during our WWE review for the March one. Lost it, but I'll probably find it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, you will. I'm full for you.
Yes, thank you for your belief in me. And if not, we'll come up with something fun anyways. But that's going to be it for this month's episode of BC Wrestle Pod. We will be back on the last Sunday of March with our third episode, because we only do this once a month because of all the crazy stuff. But March is going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, outside of our regular TV reviews, we got a big things coming up. This Thursday is our first Progress Wrestling review, where Andrew and I and whoever else wants to join us will be reviewing My Own Destiny, which of course has one of our favorite people, Simon Miller, defending his Atlas Proteus Championship. But there's also some good talent there. And of course, the big thing for me is Japanese legend herself, Ms. Meiko Satomoto's final match in the UK. She is retiring this April, so she's going up against probably one of the best women's wrestlers out there currently in Rio, which makes me super excited. So I'm going to be popping that on as soon as we're done here. And then, of course, March is jam-packed. We have our Elimination Chamber review happening next Monday. We're doing a live watch-along on the 9th for AEW Revolution, with the review being on the 11th. We are also jumping back to the land of Canada, as Will and I will be covering Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's second event, Mayhem, which makes me super excited. And then, of course, we also have some other things. TNA Sacrifice, their next pay-per-view is next month as well. We have our podcast episode. Trust me, folks, March is going to be pretty light when it comes to certain things. But let me tell you, once we get through March, it's all hands on deck, because stay tuned for more information as we go through March. But 2025 Hell Week is returning on BC Wrestle Pod, and we have a jam-packed schedule. We are expanding. It is no longer just 2 nights of WrestleMania and NXT Stand and Deliver this year. We are covering some other stuff, and a couple of the BC Wrestle Pod hosts may or may not be together in one room. They're this whole entire thing in April, so this is gonna be crazy. But from myself and my good friend, the Kilts Man, and the rest of the BC Wrestle Pod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you Tuesday, hopefully, depending on things, with AEW. But if not, we will definitely see y'all back for NXT and CMLL on Wednesday. But until then, adios. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.